Okay, so when we talk about spell jars, a lot of people do it different ways. I'm going to show you how I do spell jars when I've done them, and how I put it together, what ingredients I decide to use, why I decide to use those ingredients. This can also apply to mojo bags or gree bags, except for there you're doing it within a bag, a pouch, a little bit of cloth, dependent on what you have on hand and what you want to use. The biggest difference, I think, between spell jars and the bags, mojo bags tend to, you don't have any liquid in them. They're intended to carry on a person, or you can put them in your vehicle, or you can put them in a bag, like backpack, things like that. Spell jars are more things that are kept on a shelf, or they're buried in your yard someplace, depending on what the spell is. So they have a lot of different uses. A lot of people tend to also burn candles on top of their spell jar to seal their spell. I'm not going to do that with this particular one, but it's fairly easy. You just put a candle on top of your lid, you'll put it on top of your jar, and then after you've put your jar together, as you light your candle, you're meditating on the intent that you're putting into that jar. Ingredients vary. They're going to vary dependent on you, and that's really the key here. If you feel that a certain ingredient needs to be put in, then that's what you put in. You can follow somebody else's spell exactly and use the exact ingredients that they do, and that's fine. I don't see an issue with that, as long as you are pulling up the energy and putting your intention into each of the ingredients in order to manifest. So I'm a mom, and I have kids, and I have triplets that are still at home. I have 2 olders that are grown and out of the house. And so this spell jar is going to be for them. It is going to be a protection and prosperity jar for them that I am going to bury in a special garden spot in our backyard. So some of the ingredients that I gathered: black salt. Black salt is fairly easy to make. It's basically just a mixture of ash and regular salt. Some people will say that you have to use sea salt, or you have to use pink salt, or you have to use this special kind of salt. Granted, it probably has not been processed as much as table salt, and would probably do a little bit better because it doesn't have as much other energies mixed into it. But you know what? If you're in a pinch and that's all you got, use your table salt. It really shouldn't make a difference as long as you're cleansing it and as long as you're putting intention into it. I'm really lucky that, we have a wood burning furnace, and so we produce a lot of ash, and we have a really good energy in our house. So I used that quite often, and then I'll mix in what I burn inside my cauldron and mix it with it. If you do this, if you burn inside your cauldron and you mix for your black salt, be sure that the energy of whatever you are working with here matches what you're putting in. So, for example, if you're doing banishing spells or anything that has more of a darker or protective kind of energy, then you want a specific jar that holds that energy. If you're doing it for love and universal divine love, personal love, just love in general, then you probably will want a different jar for that. It helps keep the energy from not mixing, and so you have a more pure energy of the same type in each jar. So I'm going to put black salt in. I've got some little cloves, 3 of them because there's 3 of the children. And cloves I see as a protectant, but also they help with manifesting quicker and they pull in more energy. Same thing with cinnamon. And so I have 3 little barks of cinnamon, 1 for each child. And then I have bay leaves. And on the bay leaves, I have drawn some of the staves. You could do staves, you could do sigils, you could write. It's really up to you what you choose to do. You can also do that on the outside of your jar. You can put sigils on the outside, you can write symbols on the outside, you can do runes on the outside. It's really up to you what you want to do. And then right now I have a couple of myrrh going inside my cauldron. And I really like myrrh. I love the scent of it. I think it really brings forth a powerful energy in me. I also have 2 pieces of paper. One on there I have written protection and one I have prosperity. And then because I'm a mom and I play tooth fairy to my kids, and they're old now, and so I have a bunch of their teeth that have been left over that we've gathered through the years. And normally I would not use any type of blood, hair, body, anything like that, like teeth or anything. But for this particular one I'm going to, because it's very specific to my children and I'm going to be burying it. And so I just think it's one of those that it has a better connection with them since it came from them, and I really don't have any other use for them. So I'm going to use them in here. And then here I have an egg. And an egg, it's just the eggshell, and it's from eggs that I had cooked before and I have cleaned and let dry. And I'm going to crush them and add them into the jar, just because egg is that, to me, symbolizes that rebirth. It also has protection. It's about growth and manifestation. And so I'm going to use it in this spell. I've prepared quite a bit of this beforehand. You want to take the time for each ingredient to raise energy, bring it into yourself, and start shaping it into the intention that you want to go into your jar. And so as you work with each ingredient, you're going to be meditating and pouring that energy that you're drawing in with that shaped intention into each ingredient as you put it into the jar. So I've chosen this little glass jar. It's actually what my yeast comes in when I bake breads. And I love the fact that it's like this ambery jar. Helps keep out direct light. And I really like the color, and its size is perfect for this. And the shape really works for me. So you can reuse any jar. So you don't have to spend a bunch of money, you don't have to get a bunch of fancy jars if that's not what you want to do, and if that's not what you're capable of doing. You can use old pickle jars, you can use salsa jars, you can use any type of jar. I really recommend trying to stay completely away from plastic. Try to only do glass jars and metal type lids, things of that nature. Try to stay away from plastic as much as possible, especially if you're a nature witch. If you're not, I don't know, I guess plastic would be okay, but I probably wouldn't go there. So I'm going to take some of my black salt and I'm going to pour it into my jar. And then I'm going to meditate for a moment. Then I'm going to put in my 2 bay leaves. Then I'm going to put in my cloves. And my cloves and my cinnamon, I'm really focusing on speed of my spell, power of my spell, and longevity. Next, I'm going to add their teeth. And the 2 slips of paper. And I'm going to fold each paper 3 times. 3 is a big number for my family, not just because of our triplets, but it's just always been a very big number for us. Very important number. Then I'm going to put in my eggshells. Going to add the incense I was burning. And I'm going to put on my lid, and I'm going to roll it as I meditate and think about it. And I'm going to be drawing up energy and putting the energy into the jar with my intention. And for me, my jar is done. Now if I wanted to do candle, then I would have put any type of candle. You could do the little votive candles if you need to, be super cheap about it, or they burn really well and they make a really nice casing over it. You can use a large candle, you can use small candle. It's really kind of up to you what you want to do and what you have on hand. And I will stress that more and more, what you have on hand or what is available to you. Your craft shouldn't take a ton of money. Our ancestors didn't use a ton of money for their craft. They went out and they found things, or they grew what they needed. And that's something that we need to, I personally think we need to start getting more back to. There's such a commercialism when it comes to our craft, and we feel like, we have to have this, or we have to have that, or we have to use this ingredient because it's the only one that works. And that's just really not true. At least in my opinion, that's not true. Some people may have different opinions, and that's great. So for me, my jar is done, and then I will go out and I will bury it in my backyard in my special spot that I have for it. Like I said, you can do the same thing with a bag with different ingredients. I've seen money bags where it's been a sigil or something written on paper. They'll put a few coins in there, maybe some clove or some cinnamon for speed and for power in the spell. And then they just wrap it up and they'll put it in their car, or they'll, carry it in their purse or their bag wherever they're going. You can do this with all kinds of different things. It just really depends on you. Candle magic, very, very similar in my opinion. I personally don't have a lot of supplies to make my own candles and things of that nature, so I make my own. You can get these at Dollar Tree for $1 a piece. You could also get better ones at different places, more expensive. You can, if it's glass on the outside, You can go ahead and write your sigils, runes, whatever it is on the outside. You can draw pictures, anything that really encompasses the visualization part that you want for that particular spell. If you have a regular out candle that doesn't have the glass around it, you can carve all that into the candle. If you are really inclined and you have the ability and the skills to make your own candles, then you can add herbs and things to that. If you want to add herbs to candles like this, you could do it right on the top, just adding a little bit there. Just be careful with that because sometimes they will crackle and pop and spark, so be very careful when you add herbs into your candles. And it's the same type of process as you're going through and writing this onto your candles. Each one, you are really putting in that energy and intention. Your focus is completely there on that specific sigil or that specific rune or that specific intent that you're putting into the candle. And in the end, all of our magic, whether we're using tools or whether we're just working with energy, it's all about raising energy, pulling it into us, shaping its intention, and putting it out there to manifest. One other key aspect I feel when it comes to spells and spell work and intention and manifestation that people tend to not talk about as much is the action part. And it doesn't have to be huge actions, but you do need to be moving into that space where that spell can work. And that's going to look a little bit different for everybody. And dependent on where you're at and what you have the availability to do is going to depend on what the action looks like. But action really is critical in this as well. You can't just do a spell and do nothing else and then that spell is going to take care of everything for you. You have to give it a space where it can do its work. And I think that's what the action piece really kind of speaks to, is giving it that space to work in. So I hope you found this informative. I hope it gave you an understanding on different things that you can do, different kinds of ways that you can do spell jars, spell candles, mojo bags. It's really up to you. So keep going forward on your path. Try new things. See what works for you. See what doesn't work for you. See what resonates. See what doesn't. Only take the parts that resonate. This is your craft. Nobody can tell you how to do it or how is right or what is right and wrong. It's really up to you and how you feel about what you're doing. Keep growing.